You've tuned in to Stranger Than Fiction News, broadcasting live from the dark side of the planet. On May 25th, 2018, the world watched in horror as Tommy Robinson was arrested live on Facebook, and within just hours of his arrest, was put in prison for 13 months for reporting on a pedophile rape gang. Ladies and gentlemen, the 35-year-old was freed from prison in August after a three-judge panel quashed the lower court's ruling. A lower court ruling made at Leeds Crown Court. Crown, of course, means not free. Tommy Robinson was formally released from bail on November 5th, 2018, after the judge announced that Mr. Robinson was no longer subject to any bail conditions. Now, what has happened, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Robinson has just released an epic documentary called Pandrama, based on the Panorama BBC series. Here's an excerpt from it. Exposes the BBC as a pedophile gang itself. Listen to this.
If there's one thing that symbolises the BBC, we all know about the fake news. I've just proved to you that they create the fake news, that it's not impartial, that they work with far-left extremist organisations. That's been proven. If there's one thing that symbolises them, the BBC covered for Jimmy Savile. They covered for Stuart Hall. Up to 100 children were raped and abused, many of them on the property of this organisation. Let me show you this statue that is at the entrance to the BBC. That statue was sculptured by a man called Eric Gill. Eric Gill was a paedophile. He raped his own daughters. He had sex with animals. He had an incestuous relationship with his sister. When the Catholic Church became aware of this man's crimes, they removed and covered all sculptures made by him. The BBC refused to. They were asked to, but they refused to. If you have disgust now and you're fed up with paying for this, or for the propaganda they use against you, for the negative portrayal of Brexit, if you're fed up with all of these things, what can you do?
What can you do indeed, ladies and gentlemen, when you are, neck deep in the tyranny? Now, the government decided to pursue its charges against Tommy Robinson just days after that bombshell documentary, Pandrama. Everybody should check that out. And not only does it expose the BBC as a pedophile organization, but it also exposes one of its reporters, Mr. Sweeney, as trying to set up Tommy Robinson in a Jussie Smollett style hoax sex crime, if you can believe that. That's how desperate these people are. They've failed miserably in their domestic politics. Their Brexit agenda fell flat on its face. It's a huge controversy out there. What is this woman doing? Is she twerking? In any case, I think it's a man. I think a lot of people think it's a man. In any case, what is happening to Tommy Robinson is a threat to us all. It's a threat to journalism. It's a threat to free speech. And it's probably going to spark a civil war in that country, because people are fed up. And anybody that's talking about, pro-Britain, pro-UK, pro-British people, they're getting thrown under the bus. They're getting censored, arrested, harassed. There's deep state attacks that are happening to these individuals. Many have gone to prison for speaking up their minds. But, the people get it. And, and these people aren't wearing, the people that are protesting here, they're not wearing yellow vests, right? They're basically just normal, patriotic people that are fed up with a system that is obviously biased towards this liberal, progressive agenda. And what they're seeing in the UK is very much the same thing that we're seeing in America. We're seeing basically this deep state shadow government of liberals persecute, prosecute, harass and attack conservatives wherever they can. And if they can't do it legally, they send in the Antifa, they send in the foot soldiers, the terrorists from the left. And we've seen, numerous Antifa terror attacks recently in America. There was an Antifa leader in Portland that was shot at a middle school after trying to pull a gun on cops. There was a bunch of other ones that have been arrested for violent crimes, and they're crimes that are being perpetrated for political reasons, ladies and gentlemen. And that makes it an act of terror. Anytime there is basically an act of violence for political reasons, that makes it an act of terrorism. That's the definition of terrorism. In any case, the big breaking news: the government of the UK has decided to recharge Tommy Robinson for reporting on a case. He was just being a journalist reporting on a case outside of a courthouse, and later on the judge of that case ruled and made statements to the effect that what Tommy Robinson said didn't prejudice the case, it didn't prejudice the jury. He was just making generic remarks and reporting on the subject. Now, a lot of people want to make Tommy Robinson out to be some sort of hater or some sort of troublemaker for reporting on the news outside of a courthouse. Basically, there was grooming gangs that would pick up little girls, offer them drugs. It's very much what we see in America as well. It's kind of like the standard operating procedure. In any case, they try to make Tommy Robinson out to be a hater. Here you can see him debating with a member of the Muslim community. They both have, their cell phones or their tablets. They're broadcasting live. They're commenting. They're conversing with people. That's the way people do it in the 21st century. This should not be illegal. Whether it be somebody from the UK or America or some other country, just talking on the internet shouldn't be a crime, but it is a crime in the UK, and they want to charge Tommy Robinson again for the same crime that he was pretty much already acquitted for. So that basically makes it double jeopardy, if you know what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is a big case. I think a lot of people are feeling rather heated about this current situation. And what makes it worse, ladies and gentlemen, is that this has ramifications on everybody in the free press. Anybody that wants to report on pedophile gangs or what's going on in the UK is basically in danger of going to prison now. That's the precedent that's being set. And just going back to this documentary, if you haven't seen it, Pandrama, just an epic documentary. It exposes the BBC, it exposes the establishment, and the day after that he put that out there, he was banned from Facebook and Instagram. And we've been there. You put out a bombshell documentary and they can't refute it, so they silence you. This is our third page, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone through this ourselves. And a week after they banned him from Facebook, here comes the Attorney General for the UK basically saying, we are now going to prosecute you and put you in prison for a couple of years. Why not, ladies and gentlemen? Tyranny is free in the UK. And they're not even a free country. They're not even a free country. I mean, they don't elect their prime minister. The prime minister gets elected indirectly through the parliament or some kind of arrangement like that. They don't actually elect their leader, and it's not a democracy. It's not a republic. It's a tyranny, and it's always been Orwellian. And we've been talking about what these people have been up to, what their government has been up to for quite some time. And there's been some rather infamous cases lately. The Porton Down attacks near the Porton Down chemical weapons facility. I mean, that was just a huge flopper, if you will. Obvious as could be that was an inside job. And these people will stop at nothing to basically start World War III with the Russians. They'll stage Gladio B attacks, chemical weapon attacks in the UK and in Syria. The BBC came out recently saying, oh yeah, they staged it. Look it up for yourself. BBC staged Duma chemical weapons attack. It was all fake. And so, these people are dangerous. Not only are they dangerous for the chemical weapons attacks that they, engage in, not only are they dangerous for provoking the Russians into World War III. Who needs a mushroom cloud in their backyard? Anyone? But these people are dangerous for their history of pedophilia. And, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, I mean, the UK was hardcore into pedophilia. They had the Pedophile Information Exchange, which was kind of like a NAMBLA organization for the UK. People would call up and they would get the Home Office, which is like basically their Department of Justice, helping the pedophiles get more information on how to hook up with kids, ladies and gentlemen. And the BBC, they were running basically 24/7, not 24/7 news, but 24/7 orgies with children on their facilities, thanks to the likes of Jimmy Savile and others. And they were fully protected by the state, fully protected by the establishment. And we've seen, basically a track record of that, not only in the UK, but in America as well, where the establishment is always protecting the pedophiles, always protecting, the perverts. Think about those Planned Parenthood Acorn videos that came out, where they were, these leftist organizations were trying to aid and abet child sex traffickers, bringing in children from foreign countries, minors, exactly what we're seeing with these open borders today, busted on tape. And the Obama administration goes on the defensive, appoints John Podesta to not look into Planned Parenthood and Acorn, but to look into James O'Keefe, Breitbart, and soon after Breitbart was murdered. What we're seeing happen to Tommy Robinson happened to Breitbart, happened to Michael Hastings, happened to Tom Clancy, happened to that guy basically from Reddit, although his story was a little more complicated. And, look, how many people have been taken down by this deep state? Look what they're doing to our president right now. When is enough going to be enough? When can journalists and people just be free and be able to speak their mind again? Is that okay? Do we need permission? Do we need a royal letter, a royal decree, so that we can exercise our rights as humans? I mean, why do you think you have a mouth? Why do you think you have ears? It's to speak and hear. Why is it that we can't say what we want to say anymore? Why is everything described as hate speech if it doesn't conform with their liberal New World Order views? You think there's bias? Of course there's bias. Look at how they covered the Covington kids versus the Parkland kids. Look at how they treated Hillary versus Obama. Obviously there's bias in the system, ladies and gentlemen, and that bias is everywhere. And it isn't limited to Tommy Robinson. It isn't limited to Donald Trump. It's every conservative is concerned. Every conservative, every Christian, every person that has traditional values is a target of this New World Order beast system. Have no doubt about it. And I think that it's absolutely disgusting what they've done to Tommy Robinson, what they've done to other patriots in Britain. We're not British. We don't give about their world, but in principle, when you see a bunch of patriots and journalists go to jail in a Western country that speaks English, you are concerned, because what's going on in the UK is coming here, ladies and gentlemen. They're 2 steps ahead in the socialist agenda. Have no doubt about it. And their push for pedophilia and transitioning children into the opposite sex, it's disturbing. The way they've institutionalized it, the way they're funding it, the way they're pushing it on people, it makes what's happening in our country seem conservative, to say the least. But when you see what's happening in our country, how they're indoctrinating the children, grooming them, talking to 4 and 5-year-olds about sex is grooming. And why is this establishment grooming children for sexual assault? Why do you think? Just look at this footage of creepy Biden, who is the front runner for the 2020 Democratic nomination. Liberal, progressive liberal. Check out his hand. Pay attention to his hand, what he's going to do to this child right there in front of everybody. He's going to reach in. He's going to pinch her inner nipple. I think we're just going to have to wait. We're rewinding. Okay, so he just pinched her. She moves away. And, he puts his hand there again. This guy is a child molester. They want to talk about Michael Jackson. What about creepy Biden? and all the things that came out in the Podesta emails. You know, every time these liberals get busted, they just basically either they go after the whistleblower, or they say the Russians did it. That's their go-to story. But time and time again, they go after the whistleblower, they go after the journalists, they go after the reporters, they go after free speech, because these people are socialists. They burn books, they grab guns, they try to label people to justify violence. They are of the same ideology as the socialists of the 1930s. You know, there was this big program called denazification. But then came Operation Paperclip that lifted a bunch of Nazis and their gold and brought them to America. And, you know, they became the Democratic Party. I mean, essentially that is the history. They got mixed in with the folks of the KKK, who were Democrats, by the way. And you've got this, like, hybrid socialist kind of Luciferian cult out there that calls themselves Democrats, but they're really Democrats. Don't forget the end. Don't forget the end, or it'll be the end of us. This beast system is looking to erupt like a massive volcano, and it's going to take everybody out with it. If you were ever looking for a clear and present danger, if you're ever looking for fascism, if you're ever looking for an epic enemy as a do-gooder to fight against, it is the tyranny of the deep state, of the New World Order, of this liberal progressive agenda that has taken over the Western world, that has taken over NATO, that has taken over the UN, that has taken over our countries worldwide. And you might think that sounds a little grandiose, sounds too good to be true. And yet the evidence is there. And clearly you can see the bias. You can't be that asleep. You can't be that ignorant in this day and age and not have seen the bias, the discrimination, the harassment for yourselves. As well as the other documentaries that strongly suggest that indeed these people on the left are not only, crooked and twisted, but they are into the most unfathomable types of evil known to man. It's funny, there was news reports out today and yesterday that they discovered about 1,400 children sacrificed not that long ago. Maybe it was more than 1,400. Thousands of children sacrificed not that long ago in South America by various tribes. This stuff still happens today, ladies and gentlemen. Children are still being sacrificed at the hands of the occult today, not only in America, but in the UK. In fact, if it originated anywhere, it's probably the UK. Literally, it's become the island of the devil. Did you know that the UK is the second biggest child sex trafficker in the world after, what is it, Vietnam or Thailand or something like that? There are more pedophiles per square inch in the UK than just about anywhere else in the world. It is a culture that has been ingrained in the very fabric of the society, and it is basically, capped off with a hierarchy of pedophiles at the top. And not only that, but they're cult members. They're into evil. Evil is their nature. They are the opposite of regular people. And they're using the system to kettle us into a virtual prison, if you will. Our cities have become nothing more than prisons, waiting for the next step. And while you're free to go to work and watch television and pay your taxes, you better not make too much noise, or they're going to come after you like they've come after Tommy Robinson. As soon as you start pointing out, like, oh, what's behind the veil, what's really going on with the television, what's really going on with these politicians, they send the Gestapo after you. And what they've done to Tommy Robinson, if you followed the story, the systemic harassment, persecution, imprisonment, I mean, they're trying to make this guy out to be to be a martyr. You know, they're trying to take this guy out. There's been numerous setups, and you can bet it's just a matter of time. And I think that honestly, if our values are to protect freedom and democracy, if we're out there, you know, invading countries to free them from tyranny, why aren't we invading the UK, which has become a tyrannical institution all into itself? The people out there, they don't vote for a leader. They're not free. They can't speak freely. They've been invaded by a system that is anti-Christian by its very nature. And it's only getting worse. And of course, you know, they're pushing all sorts of evil onto people, and it's making it like, you know, like a final entrapment. It's making it like a concentration camp or a re-education camp where people will not escape with their values or their life. I think that what's happening in the UK right now is basically an international crisis. Not just the Tommy Robinson case, but how they've basically planted evidence against Trump and participated in that coup with Andrew McCabe and Comey and Rosenstein and all of them, with the Christopher Steele dossier, Fusion GPS. You know, often enough it comes back to British intelligence. But you look at their interference in our elections with the BBC, their interference in our elections by planting evidence against Trump. You look at them trying to basically stage Gladio B events in foreign countries and on their own soil, claiming chemical attacks by the Russians, trying to trigger an end of the world event like World War III. You know, I think that the UK has made itself one of the leading terrorist supporting nations in the world. And, you know, as far as we're concerned, they are a rogue terrorist nation, working for the devil, working for the Antichrist, and I think it's as plain as can be. You don't really need to look further than the fact that their establishment is protecting pedophiles. But it gets so much darker than that. In any case, you know, this is basically the last nail in the coffin with all the Brexit talk out in the UK. Now this double jeopardy situation for Tommy Robinson. I think, you know, the streets are going to overflow. It's going to erupt, and I think there's going to be a massive amount of support in the UK for Tommy Robinson, for free speech, for traditional values, for conservative thinking. And again, you know, watching this go down, watching this unfold, and us saying nothing is like watching the Nazis, you know, take over Europe again, and we just remain silent on the sidelines, hoping that it won't come onto our shores. Well, their Antifa has come onto our shores. Their socialism and communism and radicalism has come onto our shores, and their hatred is being felt coast to coast. We're already being impacted by the fascism from the UK, and you can't call it anything else other than fascism when they're arresting journalists for reporting on a pedophile case. And it's not just that. I mean, if it wouldn't have been that case, it would have been something else. These people, the state out there has targeted Tommy Robinson for incarceration. Reminds us of the Kent Hovind case and many other cases. Remember what happened to the Bundys. Remember what happened to many of the other patriots under the Obama administration that were arrested, detained for endless trials and the like. That's exactly how these people operate. They're a threat to our nation. They're a threat to our way of life. They're a threat to Christianity. They're a threat to the whole world. And letting these people go free and not intervening in their domestic situation, I think is a mistake, and it's a threat to us all. And we would basically petition our government and our president to address this issue of fascism in the UK, as well as the fascism that's coming out of Silicon Valley and every other socialist media outlet and socialist media platform, which includes the mainstream media. If you don't think they're a bunch of socialists on NBC and CBS and the like, you got another thing coming, ladies and gentlemen. Just wait for it. Wait for their final solution. In any case, if you're just joining us, we've just learned today that Tommy Robinson has been indicted again, facing double jeopardy, something that's illegal here but not over there, being tried for the same crimes, crimes that are just ridiculous. Imagine journalists in America not being able to cover a court case. Remember the Jussie Smollett thing? When he was coming out of prison, there was like every, reporter in the world there trying to get a picture. That's freedom of the press. But in the UK, you don't have that freedom. You don't have freedom of the press. You don't have freedom of speech. You're not even a free person out there. You're a subject, and you're being subjected to tyranny. You can't imagine a country, in the Western world right now that doesn't actually vote for a president. But we have one. It's the UK. People don't realize that. They don't vote for their prime minister. They vote for members of parliament who choose an imperial master with, with the okay of the true authority out there, which is not democratic or Republican, to say the least. But they're a threat, and this is the thing. They're not a democracy. They're not a republic. They're not a free people. But they have a huge amount of influence on our politics. They speak our language, so they can infiltrate, they can influence, and they can do a huge amount of damage to our politics, to our people's way of thinking. But these are not free people. They're like monsters that protect pedophiles and plant evidence against Trump and, basically orchestrate chemical attacks on innocent people so that they can blame the Russians and trigger World War III and end the world as we know it. If that's not a fucking terrorist, I don't know what is. So yes, we would petition our government and our president to address this fascist situation out there in the UK. And it's only going to get worse. And I'll tell you what, if we don't address it in the UK, if we don't address it in Silicon Valley, we'll be addressing it on Main Street and on Broadway of every American city from coast to coast. Because these Antifa, these fascists are coming. They're coming for your mind, they're coming for your body, and they're coming for your soul. Because these people are of the dark side, ladies and gentlemen. These people, live in a world where evil is good and good is evil. You want to protect children. That's evil to them. That's hate speech to them. You want to protect traditional marriage. That's evil to them. That's hate speech to them. You want to protect your country with sovereign borders. That's hate speech to them. And for that, you deserve to be, attacked by Antifa or the system itself. Take your pick, ladies and gentlemen. This is a threat to us all. What's happening to Tommy Robinson is a crime, ladies and gentlemen. It's criminal, and it's and it's also the principle here that matters. They're attacking free speech. They're attacking journalism. They're attacking conservatives. And so all of us are concerned. Because what's happening to Tommy Robinson could be happening to us. And if it was a Democrat in the White House right now, given the atmosphere, imagine they win the White House one day. What do you think is going to happen to the conservatives? You're going to be seeing a lot more Tommy Robinsons in the U.S. We have to stand up against fascism. We have to, understand what fascism really is. People want to, think of fascism as the Nazis, as Hitler's. Okay, Nazi stood for National Socialist Workers' Party. It was a labor party. It was of the left. Socialism, workers, labor. Do you get it? These people, the Nazis were replacing, the crucifix with pictures of Hitler. They were going after not only Jews, but Catholics and gypsies and Slavs and people that were handicapped. These weren't extreme righties. These were extreme lefties. Just follow the Nazi gold. It'll bring you right to 9/11. It'll bring you right to that BBC report, ladies and gentlemen, where they were standing in front of World Trade Center 7 saying, oh, the building has come down while the building was behind the girl. The BBC has been implicated in Gladio B events since at least 9/11. Not just what happened in Syria or in Porton Down. They've been implicated. What about the 7/7 attacks If there's no journalists out there, how could you ever expect to report on the news? And I'll tell you what, when you look at Tommy Robinson's documentary, when you look at how that reporter from the BBC was treating Laura Southern, was treating, many other people, and the way they were trying to set up Tommy Robinson, it's fucking dangerous. They were trying to assassinate him, basically, ladies and gentlemen. And how many documentaries have we seen, from the state television out there, Channel 4 and the like, basically running documentaries, negative documentaries on a patriot, on a conservative. Look, they want to brand him as a racist, as a homophobe. Everybody's getting that treatment today. Everybody's a Tommy Robinson. Everybody's a Donald Trump. Everybody's going to get that exact same kind of special treatment. At first they came for the Jews, then they came for the Catholics, then they came for the Tommy Robinsons, the Donald Trumps, and the like, and then they'll come for you. That's the way evil operates. They can't help themselves. It's a compulsion. It's like pedophilia. It's like serial killers. They're hearing voices. They can't stop themselves. That's what the clinical psychiatrist will tell you, ladies and gentlemen. These people have a disease, and it spreads through the airwaves. It spreads through the television. It spreads through the social media apps, through video games and the like. They're trying to zombify, and dumb down the population, try to, social engineer the entire world into a progressive, liberal, Luciferian state, with an emphasis on the Luciferian anti-Christian ideology, because that's exactly what they are, right down to the to the very last letter. They're anti-life. They're anti-right. They're anti-marriage. They're anti-truth, ladies and gentlemen. You want to talk about who's spreading the most lies out there? Of course it's the left. That's all you get from these people. In fact, people that are of the left, regular people out there on the streets, they tune into the television just to hear the lies. It's like the song, Tell Me Lies. They celebrate it. They love it. It's the inversion of good. Woe to those that call good evil and evil good, ladies and gentlemen. But we're all racist to these people. Look at Tommy Robinson having, a 21st century conversation with someone with a different mindset. And look, it's normal. I don't see a whole lot of hatred here. These people are actually having an entertaining conversation while talking to their, to their respective crowds. That's just the way people are doing it these days. And of course, you get people in the establishment like Theresa May and the like, ugly as fuck. I mean, they couldn't have found an uglier woman. I'm sorry to say this, but an uglier person, to put there in front of the cameras to lead the charge for the Luciferian state. But of course, nobody's subscribing to their social media accounts. Nobody wants to hear what these people have to say. They have to force feed it, down your throats, like like they're trying to make, like you're some kind of industrial chicken. They're trying to force feed the propaganda down everybody's throats, through the television, and nobody else is allowed to feed you any type of content. So, of course, they don't like competition. They don't like to see what's happening on the socialist media platforms, so they're shutting everybody down in tandem with these companies. Don't think that these companies like Facebook and Google and the like are not working with, with the full blessing of the deep state. Of course they are. They're one and the same. And that's the problem, is that the media is basically, the liberal party. There isn't a distinction. They can call it NBC, the BBC, they can call it whatever they want, but it's really the DNC. It's really, the Labor Party, for the most part. The Workers' Party, the Socialist Party. Follow the Nazi gold. Educate yourselves out there. I'm tired of seeing people go, oh yeah, Nazis, they're extreme right. Wrong! Wrong, you fucking failed history. These people were socialist cult members. They were the Workers' Party of their time, the Labor Party of their time. And, people should check out the documentary Hitler and the Occult. And then you go check out documentaries like Hillary and the Occult, and you totally get it. Not only are these people socialists, but they're witches too. Literally, witches practicing black magic, and they need, the blood of children. And right now, you know, groups like Tommy Robinson are messing up their business. If everybody's talking about the pedophiles and the freaks at Westminster or at Downing Street or, you know, wherever it might be, then that's a problem for them. They need to change the conversation. They need to say the Russians did it. That's what we got after the Podesta emails came out. Look, she's twerking. It's fucking disturbing. Tell that man to go back to Transylvania. Transsexualvania. Wherever the fuck she comes from. It's disturbing. It's disturbing. How do people, like, you know, sit at home knowing that, you know, that they've got a person like that running the country? Was this the chicken dance? Or is this the pedo dance? We're not sure. But I wouldn't be surprised either way. I don't know why we keep seeing this gentleman. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, big breaking news. Tommy Robinson has been charged again in a case stemming back to his arrest in 2018 for covering a child grooming gang. Now, if you're not aware of the grooming gang phenomenon in the UK, it's rather interesting. You've got groups of people, you know, sometimes 20, sometimes 200, organized groups that round up children, drug them, and then rape them and pimp them out. And, you know, these are people's children, right? And obviously people in those towns that were impacted by these gangs, and there were many towns, Rockdale, and I think I can't even tell you how many different towns were impacted with huge organized networks of child grooming gangs. And of course people are going to be outraged. Of course people are going to go to social media and talk about it. Of course people want justice. And of course all these people were convicted for their crimes. And to think that, you know, you would actually get a court in the Western world that would come out and say, you can't report on this case, you can't talk about this case because it may prejudice the jury. Well, how the fuck do we do it in America? How do we do it in America when people go through, you know, the jury pool? They find people that are just unaware or don't care or are, you know, sympathetic to the defendant. That's part of, you know, that's part of the process, but they don't want that. They don't want due process in the UK. And the court tells you everything you need to know. It's a crown court. Crown means, you know, you are ruled by an imperial master. There is no democracy. There is no republic. That's a threat to us all. How did this ever evolve, you know, to what it is today? How did we not intervene for regime change years ago? How can we let people that speak the same language as us, you know, suffer under the hands of tyranny like they are out there in the UK? And what they've done to their country, it's despicable. It's despicable. I feel sorry for all the good people out there that are suffering through this dictatorship. And while everybody loves their history and everybody loves their culture, you know, if you want, you know, if you still want Disneyland out there in London, you know, go for it. But that doesn't mean that Disneyland, that Mickey Mouse has to be running the fucking show. I think, you know, in the 21st century, we should be beyond that. But people love, you know, being enslaved. It's like the Stockholm Syndrome. They love it. They love it. They wouldn't have it any other way with their black pudding. You know what black pudding is? It's blood. They suck on blood in the morning, ladies and gentlemen. They want to, you know, they want your children to have a transition, change sexes, like, you know, changing clothes. And if you dare talk about pedophiles or talk about the corruption, here comes the Gestapo. It's like V for Vendetta, just like 1 or 2 chapters away out there, ladies and gentlemen. Which is probably more than we can say for ourselves, looking at what's happening on the West Coast in California, out there in Oregon, Washington. I mean, they're going communist, hardcore out there. It's an invasion from within. The communists have already landed. You know, and what's funny is they're telling us to worry about the Russians when the communists are already in America. And the Russians aren't even communist anymore. They totally, you know, they totally failed history. They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't remember the Berlin Wall or none of that. They're like, oh, the Russians, the Russians. You know, we should be having, you know, these congressional hearings again. Are you or have you ever been a communist? Guess who's been a communist? Well, you got Brennan, who was a communist at the height of the Cold War, Talk about treason. Talk about traitor. Then you got Bernie Sanders, that's a commie. Then you've got like a bunch of other people in Congress now that are communists too. And these communists don't want you to have free speech, and they want your guns. Do you get the picture yet? Do you get the picture yet? Look, just wait for the gulag. It's coming. It has to be, right? You know, if it looks like a duck, smells like a duck, it's a fucking duck. These people are commies, and they're going to put you in the gulag. And the way they're going to get you there is by basically breaking down communications. So they're going to censor everybody. Did you hear Zuckerberg? He's like, oh, we're going to be focusing on messages now. We're going to be looking at all your messages, and we're just going to make sure, you know, how to classify you on our social media credit score. You know, look, these people are dangerous, and they're not going to stop with burning books. They're not going to stop with, you know, planting evidence or staging Gladio B events. They are not going to stop until they kill everybody. That's their nature. Just check out the Georgia Guidestones. Check out your synthetic skies. Check out what they're feeding you for lunch. You know, right now the British are having, you know, quite a debate about American food. They don't want our chlorinated chicken that's pumped up with hormones and antibiotics and who knows what else, fed GMOs and the like. They'd rather eat mad cow than eat our food, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, as for us, we're like, you know, can I get an extra hot dog, please? You know, we don't even realize how bad we got it. But these people are trying to exterminate us right now through what they're putting in the food, the water, the air, the vaccines, and the like. Does this look like hatred, or does this look like these guys are getting along? And they're supposed to be like, you know, hating each other. That's what the BBC will have you think, that Tommy Robinson's a big hater, or that even like, you know, the Muslims out there in the UK are big haters or whatnot. Everybody gets along. Nobody gives a fuck. But the television will make you think like everybody's at war with one another. You know, just kind of like the Jussie Smollett case. Where did that case go? Anybody remember that case? Right, this guy tried to incite like a race war in Chicago, and he sent like fake anthrax through the mail. He should have been looking at like terror-related crimes, and they released them on disorderly conduct, right? So Jussie Smollett can send anthrax through the mail. He can incite a race war. He gets hit with disorderly conduct. He's out on bail, $10,000. That's what he paid, right? It's a $100,000 bail, but he only had to pay 10 grand. So they let him off for 10 grand. But Tommy Robinson's looking at years in prison for just covering a case, just like what these two are doing right now. They're on, you know, they're on Facebook, and they're like talking to their friends. And all of a sudden, that's a big deal. Oh no, you've got too many friends. Oh no, you're talking about the issues. Oh no, people might wake up and understand what's going on. Stop, stop. You know, ban him, hurry, hurry. Put him in, you know, the digital gulag. You know, tell everybody that he's violated community standards. Call him a criminal. Plant evidence. Send out the Antifa. Send out, you know, the Sweeneys from the BBC. Send out the Gestapo. Send in the Crown Court. Send in the Attorney General. Send in the Army for Tommy Robinson, because he dared to speak the truth. He dared to speak truth to power. Send in the Army, ladies and gentlemen. And Tommy Robinson's prepared. He knows what's coming. He knows what's coming. In fact, everybody in the UK knows what's coming as soon as they announced, you know, that they were bringing up charges again. And, you know, the timing is everything. Just days after his mega documentary came out there, Pan Drama. And it's just epic. It was like a Project Veritas infiltration of the BBC. He got him busted, trying to, you know, set him up. It was huge. Not only that, but he unleashed a bombshell on the BBC. They got this big pedophile statue, you know, encrusted on their building, while all other statues of the same guy were taken down and burned because he was a renowned pedophile, like another Savile. But it's basically like they got a Savile from the 1800s that sculpted a thing right there on the face of the BBC, and they don't want to take it down. And it's like a naked kid too, being like all felt up, creepy Biden style, right? And hundreds of kids were raped and molested and tortured at the headquarters of the BBC, you know, by known pedophiles like Savile and others. And I'm sure it wasn't just Savile. I'm sure, you know, at least half of them. The numbers are staggering in the UK. Check out the pedophile information exchange that was routing calls to the Home Office. Oh, are you a pedophile? This is the Department of Justice here to help. Cheerio. You know, it's unbelievable. And it's become institutionalized. They're grooming children, and now there's like a rash of kids starting at 7 that are undergoing hormone therapy to transition and to, you know, go through puberty with synthetic drugs in their system. That's how they're gonna reach adulthood, is with like synthetic hormones that push them into like the complete opposite of what they were, you know, naturally. I mean, it's just like the complete inversion of reality. Good is evil, evil is good, and they flip everything upside down. And if you dare say that evil is evil, that 2 + 2 is 4, they call you a hater, they call you a racist, they call you a homophobe. How can you be afraid of people that are mentally ill? I mean, look, ladies and gentlemen, and that's exactly what it is. You know, and talking to these people on the left is like walking into the insane asylum and expecting, you know, things to change. Of course, all the crazy people are going to look at you like you're the hater, like you're the racist, like you're the crazy one. But the truth is that these people on the television, these people in politics for the most part, and all these leftists out there on the streets, they're the crazy ones, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And it's self-evident. They make it self-evident. You take one of these freaks from like San Francisco or Chicago or, you know, any of these big cities, and you bring them into a medium-sized small town. I mean, they stand out like a sore thumb. Oh, you know the people from the big city. You can tell them right away, right? They're totally, you know, out of whack, unbalanced, crazy. And, you know, and a lot of them think they're the opposite sex. They don't even know what sex they are. They don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know what they're, you know, talking about. But they claim it's all about love. You know, I think it was the same thing in the Charlie Manson cult too. All those Charlie Manson groupies were like, oh, it's all about love, helter skelter. You know, and then they start chopping people up and saying, you know, they're trying to start a big race war and shit. Another Jussie Smollett, another Obama. And speaking of Obama, is ISIS and all the other war crimes of that era. I mean, they should not be forgotten. All the UK listeners out there, you've seen the Chilcot report. You know what these people have done. They're criminals. And the establishment is basically a criminal rogue organization that has victimized countless children and is screwing everybody out of their, you know, out of their dues. You should be living in a free, prosperous society that's proud of your heritage, that's proud of where you come from. But instead, you're being told like you should basically grab your ankles and, you know, take it you know where. That's basically what they're telling you. And I don't think that anybody should be told, you know, who to be. Quite honestly, I think if you're British, then you're British. If you're, you know, German, then you're German. If you're from another country, you're from another country. That's just the way it is. And good fences make good neighbors. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, all of these imperial masters that are telling you that you're a hater, they've got walls, you know, 10 feet high, 20 feet high. They got, you know, armed guards. It's like, you know, it's like the stormtroopers at every corner. And they want to tell you that you're the racist. And it's like this in every socialist, communist regime. The people, you know, are told to tighten the belt, you know, pay a little bit more for the society, and people end up living like paupers, while the imperial masters are just living in their palaces and, you know, and the like. That's how it's always been. You know, and these people that are coming on television trying to reinvent socialism, try to reinvent the wheel. Look, it's been tried before. It looks good on paper, but in reality, it's a nightmare. You can't have, you basically can't have freedom without capitalism. You can't have capitalism without freedom, ladies and gentlemen. And look, Tommy Robinson is going to be facing, you know, a hefty legal struggle. I know he's starting a new website. He's only got the YouTube left for the most part. Check him out there. Support him. Get involved, understand what he's talking about. He was just live not that long ago talking about the new indictment. It's fucked up, and it's a threat to us all. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And when you see, you know, a fascist, radical left monarchy basically persecute conservatives and the like, and journalists, and arrest them, and, you know, set them up with like bogus charges and the like, that's a threat to all of us. And don't think it's just going to, stop at the UK. It's coming here. We've seen it. And it's the same people, look, literally it's the same people that are, planting evidence against Tommy Robinson, that planted evidence against Donald Trump. These people are dangerous. They're a danger to our way of life. And, even we might be close allies and we might be close friends. And this is what you do to friends. You do an intervention. They need a fucking intervention over there. We need to send in our troops and we need to show them who's boss. Once again, let's do it. Let's invade the UK. Fuck it. It'll be like a Beatles thing. And we'll go in there. They invaded us. We'll invade them. 1812 all over again. Doesn't matter. I'm sure they'll embrace us with open arms just like they did in Iraq, right? Well, what do you think the British would do if we invaded and freed them from their tyranny? Do you think they would fight back? Oh, no. Do you think there'd be a big, radical insurgency of communists and socialists and Antifa fighting back? I hope so. I hope that I hope so. I hope the Antifa show up and the military is there. That's all. I mean, that would be front page news for quite a while. Britain freed from leftist tyranny, from the crazies that think men are women and women are men, and that up and down is up. I mean, these people are messed up. And I'll tell you what, there's even more proof of that. Every year they have this London City Day Parade. It's kind of like their Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and they bring out these statues of Gog and Amog, or Mog and Agog, the biblical armies of the devil. They celebrate that every year since the 1300s. There's Celtics and Druids and witches everywhere, raping children, going to Stonehenge, and persecuting, journalists like Tommy Robinson and Britain First and all of that stuff. And they've got colluders, Facebook, Google, the Nazis, the socialists. Look, this is a concern that this is not only a concern for the British, it's a concern for us in America as well. And what's happening over there is as messed up as what's happening over here. And while we're focusing on these Democrats and their witch trials out there in Congress, it's happening all over the world. Where every country is fighting the same struggle against evil. It's quite literally the pages of the Bible playing out before your very eyes. The Bible is the law. That's it. That is your guide. And anything else is just liberal hogwash. Don't be double-minded. Don't cede to confusion. Don't cede to the pressures of political correctness. What's good is good, and that's all in the Bible. And everything else is just, is part of the beast system, part of the secular world. The Bible has prepared you for this. You understand what's going on out there. We don't have to do these broadcasts, but look, somebody has got to do it. And while we've been censored, I don't even know how many times, thankfully, we don't live in the UK. I think they've got it the worst. And while we've seen, our fair share of tyranny and censorship and, Big Brother, Deep State, all that in America, what's happening in the UK right now truly is Orwellian, hardcore. Any case, ladies and gentlemen, like and share. Go out there and support Tommy Robinson and get everybody organized the best you can. We're going to have to find, new systems of communications. And, in the meantime, we're going to keep hacking the matrix, keep infiltrating, keep broadcasting, as long as we can. Check us out at the stfnreport.com. And, we're on, YouTube, but that's shut down. So this is pretty much it for the time being. But we'll reorganize soon. Let people know where we've landed. This is Stranger Than Fiction News, broadcasting live. And if you're listening to this, you are the resistance.